So good conference, huh?
Yeah.
How many of you were here 11 years ago when we had it here? Think about that every time you walk by the Holiday Inn and see the room up top and remember that one little elevator. So yeah, the logistics are kind of better in a big place like this, but you kind of miss the coziness of it. I think this room is probably about as big as the entire conference was, it seems like. I just wanted to welcome you all here. We've got like a little bit more of a formal program because we've got a couple of presentations. So grab a beer, and I'm going to have Jeff Sanders come back up and run through the agenda and introduce some of the speakers. Then we'll do remarks.
Hey, welcome everyone. So we'll do some quick intros here. We have 7 board members, as you know. 5 of them are here present at the conference. Gordon Strong, who's the Mid-Atlantic representative and president. We've got Travis down there, who's the West representative. Brian, North representative. Sandy, down at the end, she's our treasurer and Midwest representative. And Phil Farrell, he's the vice president and South representative. Look out in the audience, you probably see these are the staff members who are here. I'll read out your name, you can just raise your hand. Al Boyce, Steve Piatz, Mike Lentz, Brian Jose, Sandy, Don Blake, Phil Lops, Agatha Feltus, Andy Heidel, Dennis Mitchell, Gordon, James Golovich, myself, Bruce Berger, Randy Scorby, Julie Lawson, Mike Dixon, and Dennis again. So welcome everyone. I want to tell you guys a little bit about the beer that you're drinking. This is Obey Pale Ale. It's from Waverly Brewing Company. They just put this out a couple weeks ago. It's got American malts, 2-row Victory, and some Caramel 60. It's got a nice coriander seed in it. They've actually added bay leaves directly to the kettle. It's a Baltimore thing. The hops are late additions of Citra, Simcoe, and Soriachi Ace. And the final fermentation occurs on a big bed of pureed lemons with some Chico yeast. It's about 5.5% and 24 IBUs. So with that, I'll hand it over to Bruce to talk about the training portal. You guys give him a nice warm welcome.
Good afternoon. One of the things, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to Randy. Where are you at, Randy? Scorby? Where are you at?
He's in the fast rack challenge.
He's what? Oh, he is? Oh, yeah, he's fast rack. So Randy has stepped down as education director, and I want to thank Randy first of all, foremost, for helping us out with the education. He's still staying with us, and he's been a big influence to me, and without him, we wouldn't be having this opportunity coming forward, which is the training portal. How many people have heard about this coming down the pipe? So this is news to some of you here. So what continuing education has been in the past, a lot has been basically credentialing and certifying people who wish to put on CEP events at their local local areas and local classes and so forth like that. What we're going to look to do with CEP here is a little bit different. We're going to be looking towards the future to bring content, CEP content directly to the membership, not only here in the States, but also internationally as well too. So one of the things we've done is we did a little bit of a software selection, and we came up, if those of you in education might be familiar with the product called Moodle, we have utilized that tool, downloaded it, and we are now preparing a training portal. The address will be, it's really complicated, training.bjcp.org. So it'll have single sign-on with your BJCP ID and password, the same ones you use for your judge record. People will be able to access it, and we are going in the process right now of providing content to the general membership with a whole bunch of different items. The first thing you'll see out there right now is the Greater Training Program pilot that we're currently doing right now. If you're a national or a higher ranked judge, when you log in, you'll have immediate access to this. If you are certified, recognized, or other member, you won't have access to this course until you actually do become a national hire, because that is the current requirement for taking or grading exams. There can be some exceptions, and we can turn it on for those that the exam directorate will allow us to do for. But it is out there right now, the first course. The second one that is currently underway, I'll try to page down so you can see a page for that course. The second items that are underway is Bob Hall, who's not here with us today. He is working on a series of quizzes that'll take place around the actual beer style guidelines. That's aimed for those is to help the membership with being able to learn the new style guidelines, reduce that learning curve a little bit, as well as have something that will help the existing judges be able to learn from before they take their next tasting exam, or even some of the written stuff as well too. Julie Lawson's here. Julie, want to stand up real quick? She's Assistant Education Director. Julie's current effort she's working on right now is a mead judge in a kit. So we're working on putting together a mead judge program that could be downloaded by you all for going ahead and putting together mead study sessions for becoming mead judges. Amanda Burkepper is not here today, but she is also working on the same version for the beer judge as well too. So those plan to be our first three initial offerings: the judge, training a judge in a kit, training a mead judge in a kit, and then also the style classes. The next one, and I'll page down again so you get another look at some of the stuff we have out there for the groupings. The next things up after that we are going to be working on is getting the vocabulary project completed. We want to get that out. That's going to be a part of the, as a director, I should say, we're working to get that out. That's going to be part of the main website, the new BJCP website that's being worked on. But then we're also going to be focusing on drilling down into some specific areas that we've been seeing people asking more and more information for. So we're going to try to work on some style-specific stuff, in particular Belgian beers, and even sours as well too. So the existing membership can go out, they can take these self-paced courses, and they'll understand a little bit more about the styles, or sometimes we'll move on to ingredients, so that when they're judging them, they're better informed the particulars about these particular things. So the site's very robust. It allows us to do things in multiple languages. It can also help us out with doing some change management as well too. So in the event that the BJCP decides to offer a new program or some new direction or what have you, we can put together a course working with the different directorates to put the content out and make it available to everybody to learn from. So, any questions about that? Okay, yes, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I missed where you said, is the whole thing limited to national judges, or
No.
Okay.
Anybody can log on to it right now. It's just the only interactive course is the pilot for the grader training program.
Okay.
It's out there, yeah. Anybody else? Yep, sorry.
Is it going to be limited to BJCP members, or are people going to be able to access that for study?
It's limited to BJCP, so. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, the question was, is it going to be limited to BJCP members only? And yes, it is. It's a continuing education program and offering, so you have to be a BJCP member to get it. Any other questions about it? Yes, sir. Yes, so just as the question was with regards to whether or not people will be able to earn experience points when taking the classes, and the answer is yes. Just as we offer continuing education points to courses that are submitted to us for approval and review, we also go ahead and we will provide CEP points as well for that. The other thing I should mention too, if I page back up, it's not seen here, but once you log in, there's a getting started. Can you see the mouse? No, you can't. Okay. Right under where it says BJCP Continuing Education Program Training Portal on the site, there'll be a Getting Started tab, and one of the tabs that'll be on there when you see that is a suggestion for courses. So if you do have a suggestion for a course, you can make it to us, and then we'll work with you to iron it out and get it up and running as well. Any other questions at this time regarding that? Okay, if you guys want to ask anything in particular to me directly, please feel free to find me, and I'll be happy to talk to you about it. So thank you very much. There you go. That's you.
Hi, I'm Travis. Just wanted to take a minute to talk to you guys about something we're working on. At these meetings in years past, we've had some feedback from the members. People wanted to know what are the things that the BJCP is working on, like the projects portal or the CITER exam or the vocabulary project. I think some of the concerns was there are people out here, maybe you guys in this room who want to get involved in some of these projects and lend a hand. In order to address that, we're using a product called Trello that's basically a project management type software. The idea here was to have a place where we can gather all of the potential, hundreds of projects that we could be working on, prioritize them, and then also sort of display who are the people that are working on these projects, who would you get in contact with in order to get involved. And I think the other piece of this will help is it'll be a real-time tracking of where we're at with the projects and what are the next steps and what are the needs on the different projects. So I think, it's in its early stages here, but I think ultimately we'll be able to provide access to the people who are on the project teams to actually go in here and be able to do your own updates and, provide updates that way. And then I think down the road we may be able to provide, guest access so that everybody in the BJCP can come and take a look at this and see, is there something that you want to get involved with that's happening, or that's on our radar out there of the many things we could be working on. Is there something out there that you want to raise your hand and say, I'm the person to push that one forward? So I think that was all that was on that. Any questions on that? No? Okay, thanks.
I don't have many is this on?
Yes.
Is it? Okay. Yeah, I don't have many specific remarks, except to talk about some of the things that were of interest in previous meetings and to give an update on that. Last year there was significant discussion about the backlog of exams and what was going on with that. This year I'm happy to report that the oldest exams we have now are 1 or 2 from February. February exams are being closed now, and some more recent ones are. So, kind of get the feeling that we've turned the corner on this. We're not breathing easy, but the exam director's been working pretty hard on making sure that exams can get graded and returned in a timely fashion. So, I don't know if people are experiencing any differences out there, but there's the occasional odd set that takes longer due to specific graders having personal issues, but for the most part, it seems like exams are getting closed within our 3 or 4 month goal. So I'm pretty happy about that. So this is a good time then to say how many people in here grade exams? Thank you. For those of you that give exams, we've also tended to notice that the seats for the exams don't always seem as full as they were a year or 2 ago. I don't know if you're experiencing those things locally. So it's kind of suggesting to us that the backlog of people looking to sit for an exam seem to be lessening. We offer all the exams to anyone that would show up at the the conference is. And the number of people sitting for the tasting exam, for instance, seems to be down from previous years. So I think the graders will like that as well, because that makes the sets a little bit more manageable. The exams that are scheduled out a number of months, the time for an empty exam slot seems to be lessening as well. So all that seems to be working. The written exams, in particular, the quarterly written exams, which seems to me to be like a really brilliant solution. Allows anybody to take a written exam if they can find somebody that's a grader once a quarter. So I think that part of the program is working really well as well. So if anybody has any exam-related comments, we have a number of the exam directors here who could address them, but I wanted to give you a chance to comment on anything exam-related. I don't know, I think no exam questions is a milestone in itself. So we'll take that one. We're working on transitioning the website to our new site. The design's been done and we've been moving over content. We still haven't sort of shifted over major functions. We are going sort of piece by piece. Like we're getting the new newsletters now exclusively on the new site. We're looking to move other things over there as well. Don't have a specific time on it because we're also reviewing all of our content as we move it over and refreshing it as well. So we're trying to take care of that all at the same time. I mentioned the newsletter, the news style using the new website to push that out rather than a standalone email as much. If anybody has any comments on that, Dennis Mitchell's here who led putting that together. So I think we really want to hear from you at this point. There were a number of questions in the past, things that people asked us to look into. We took a number of points of direction from past meetings that led to projects we've worked on. So we do pay attention to what people ask for here. So if any of you would like to bring up anything that you think is an urgent problem or make any other general comments, we can hear you. And, they're recording this, so you can either use the mic or you can say it, and I'll repeat the question.
Has there been consideration giving to offering exams actually during the conference, whether that be 2 days before?
So the question was like, have you thought about doing exams during the conference instead of before the conference? I think the answer is no. If anybody from the exam directorate wants to say something, Steve?
I suspect our big problem in trying to offer an exam during the conference is just the logistics side of it. I mean, we're doing the exams off-site in most years. Trying to get space during the event, coordinating that with the HA is somewhat of a hassle. Floor space has a price associated with it at events like this. I mean, we could do that if there was enough demand and space available.
One of the problems that I would foresee with that is the AHA doesn't want us counter-programming any of their events, and I don't really want to do that either. The fact that we can do all of these BJCP things at an AHA conference is tremendous. It didn't happen by accident. We worked this out with the AHA. The AHA really supports what we do, and they want a lot of qualified judges to show up for the conference. So it's a win-win for all, but we kind of have to respect that it's their conference, and we fit our events around what they're planning. So I think that would tend to be a problem. I really don't foresee us trying to do something at the same time. I believe the HA would object.
Sure that the project site is, but it's all electronic scoring. Is that on the project list to not be handwritten? For the score sheets themselves.
Speaking of,
Score sheets themselves to not be all electronic, to not be handwritten anymore. Is that a project that's in the works?
I think one of the problems there is we can't be the pioneer on the exam and something like that. How many competitions do you go to where you do score sheets electronically?
None, but
Exactly.
how many do I want to go to? All of them.
Yeah, in general, some of those types of improvements are rough for us because the BJCP doesn't directly run competitions. You know, we certify the judges who show up at competitions, and the competition organizers may or may not be BJCP members. So I would see that would have to be a local issue to be solved. It had been kicked around some. Maybe take a note on that because I think Ryan was interested in that at one point, but we never could really overcome the logistic challenges of what kind of computing requirements, not for the judges, but on the back end, that a local competition would have to do in addition to all the other things they're doing.
What's the status of the vocabulary project, and is there any possibility of getting together a beer flavor wheel that we might use for judging?
The status of the vocabulary project.
Is that a loss for words? You brought it up.
So the status of the vocabulary project. We have the content, we just need to put it into a vehicle to distribute it at this point in time. So we're working on the fine tunings of the solution right now, which will incorporate into the new website. But we will be making a call out for people to volunteer to help us out with actually physically data entering the stuff from the one area to the other.
Thanks. One other question for you.
Yeah.
you were asking about the flavor wheel. Believe it or
Flavor
not.
wheel that could be used for judging.
Well, what's interesting is at this past World Beer Cup at the Craft Brewers Convention, whatever the name of the organization, Society of Beer Chemists and Food Scientists, they just came out with not a flavor wheel as much as more like a flavor tablecloth. So anybody who was there, I kid you not, this thing was amazing. I'm trying to reduce it now into some kind of size and get their permission to possibly publish it somehow, just so people would have it. But it's, as they start to expand the vocabulary, it's becoming very hard for them to organize. And like I said, they gave it to every judge at the World Beer Cup in Philadelphia, and this thing, you could not put it on the table with 6 judges. It just took up too much room.
I think it's on sale on the Brewers Association website.
The people responsible for that contacted me this week during the conference, so I haven't gotten back to them, looking for whether there's some common interest there. So it's a discussion I intend to have, and it's good to hear that there's actually sort of member request for information like that. So I'll look into that with them since they already reached out. And as far as the vocabulary, we really have had this content for a long time without the adequate way to deliver it. And the implementation of the new website in WordPress gave us a way to put that information somewhere where we could use it from a lot of areas. And James, keeps running further and further away from me, is working on the back end pieces of that. And I believe if it goes as he plans, that we'll be able to sort of like hot link from words and other parts of the website directly into the vocabulary system we're putting in place. So I'm pretty excited about that. I know it's been something that we wanted to have out there for a long time, but the technology's really been difficult to support what we wanted to do. But I think I've seen in the last 2-3 months, all those pieces kind of fall into place. So I think now it's a matter of getting the content into the new system and trying it out. So I'm hopeful we'll see that by the end of the year. Is that all of the parts of your question, John?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
So I just want to give a quick shout out to everyone involved in, I am in front of the mic, but I wanted to give a shout out to everyone who was involved in organized the Wednesday events. I really enjoyed those. So my question, following up, I was wondering if there's any tracking of the voter engagement that happened in the recent election. Was it lower than expected? Is there anything, I don't even know the numbers, so I can't ask a follow-up question, but.
Mike Dixon, Communication Director.
I guess I'm just asking because almost no one I know voted, and I voted and encouraged people to vote, but I'm just wondering what the numbers were.
It was actually very low. It's always very low. The percentages should be on the website, I believe. Exactly, and I apologize, I don't remember exactly what they were. But they're on the voting, you know, where the results were announced. They're on the website, and typically they run about 20%. You get about a 20% turnout. We sent, Dennis, how many did we send? 3 emails? Three separate emails. We put it on Facebook, we put it on the AHA forum, Twitter, you name it, we put it out there. People just are apathetic and don't seem to vote for some reason. All right, we had 19%, 25%, and 15%. Those were our turnouts. So we took around 20%.
And as far as what we expected, it's an open election for members, so we want interested people to sort of jump in, and so we have no expectations other than we hope that people feel engaged in the organization and want to help pick who runs it.
Right, so I wonder how many people here know if you sign in when you register a competition, you can get $5 off. Awesome. So if you're logged in and you register,
$5 off what?
So if you're logged into the website as a BJCP with your ID, it's all right, I'll go over here. Start it up here.
Test. All right. So if you're logged into the BJCP website with your ID, it's what, $25 to register a competition. If you're not logged in, it's $30. It seems like a lot of people are registering competitions that are BJCP people and not getting the discount. We can't retroactively give you that discount, but everybody should know that. Oh yeah, we've got multiple ways to tell you. It says it at least 3 times, and if you put in the judge ID and don't log in, it pops up a notice that says, hey, log in, save $5.
So we do that because we do get a number of non-BJCP judges registering competitions, you know, various local fairs and homebrew shop organized things. And the people that are non-BJCP members don't always show the same amount of care in providing the reports and such. Basically, it winds up being more work on the organization to support them. So we decided to incentivize BJCP members to run competitions by offering them a discount. So there you go. Log in through the portal with your ID, and then when you go to register your competition, it will automatically give you the discount.
Hi. Could you speak a little bit about the international influence of the BJCP? I've got friends in the UK who are always interested about what we have over here, and I know that there are people in Brazil taking the exams. So I was just curious to know what all the activity is and what the future plans are.
The international aspects of the BJCP are growing at a greater rate than the North American parts of the BJCP. We have a presence in over 30 countries right now. We've given exams in, geez, at least a dozen. We have some, every year we add 3 or 4 countries to the new list of countries where we've given exams. Recently, Spain, a number of exams, Singapore. I mean, we're starting to do things in the Far East, China, and in Central Europe. I think we have one set in Prague. Ireland, the UK have given exams. So they're growing. South America has a huge judge population that's interested in taking part. I know we've given exams in Brazil, Argentina, Chile, Peru.
Ireland.
Yeah, that's from South America. What's that? Yeah, in the very last update we did, we had our first master judge outside of North America from Argentina. So so good on him. So yeah, we are trying to make the BJCP more accessible around the world. We offer the exam, the entrance exam now in 4 languages, Spanish, Portuguese, and Chinese, in addition to English. We are working on working with people in those countries to translate various materials to help them study and then run their competitions. So, yeah, we're seeing the interest, and we're trying to support them, and we're trying to help them start up their own native judge population. The BJCP will invest in getting proctors there for the initial exams if they take the effort to organize a large exam. So, you know, we do attempt to invest and support the people that want to become judges. So I think certainly I've seen the growth in South America personally, and I know the UK and Ireland are growing as well.
What advice do you have for new exam administrators? I gave my first exam in August, and do's, don'ts from the administrating of the exam, and what would help expedite things into the grading process?
Who from exam wants to take that?
I think most of that is covered in the exam procedures and things like that we have online.
Like what kind of beers to pick, or should we be mixing?
We provide guidance and suggestions on what kind of beer mixes to pick, and if any administrator has questions on that, they should send email to examdirector@bjcp.org.
Am I allowed a second question?
Sure. Okay. So I guess one of the big concerns I see coming out of judges I know, and with the advent of social media now, people posting score sheets constantly online, complaining. So I see a lot of complaints about bad score sheet quality, judges that really don't care as much as maybe they used to, and they got a higher rank. So like a lot of the times you see someone reply saying, "Oh, that's not a that's a non-BJCP score sheet." But a lot of the times I also see that this is a national or a master score sheet too. And it's not always the judge's fault, of course, because it can be sometimes you rush. But I was wondering if there's anything that we can do from the BJCP side to try and encourage more high effort score sheets in cases like this. I guess as a competition organizer, I'm often told to take it from my side, but then I feel like there's reprimand. If you reprimand one person, other people will feel afraid and no longer want to judge for your competition.
I think that's a question that a number of people here probably could take a whack at answering, because I don't think there's a straightforward answer to that. There's certainly training component for judges themselves, and I think some of what you saw on the training portal that we're working on would address the providing the tools to judges that need to work on updates of their score sheets and skills. From the social media side, there's probably do's and don'ts that ought to be followed. I know for people that post on the Facebook page, there are enforced rules about obscuring details of personally identifiable information when sheets are posted, and following sort of a certain decorum and having a discussion about that. We also have an ethics committee that's underway, looking at some of those type of issues about providing guidance on how people should act. But that's not just about judges. The way that we go about sharing the score sheets and discussing them. I mean, if it's in a forum that we sponsor, those things often devolve into shouting matches, and you often don't get real feedback. I mean, you're just kind of polling, hey, what's everybody think about this? But if there's a need for somebody to provide an organizational statement about something, those things should be addressed to the organization. Otherwise, it's like somebody standing in the parking lot shouting that they're mad and expecting us to be walking by and hearing that and addressing it. There's sort of better ways to get like a real response. We don't want to prevent judges from talking amongst themselves, but we consider that just that, unless it's actually addressed to us to work on. So if somebody wants us to work on something specific, in a specific case, not the general problem, we're looking at ways to make that clearer on how those sort of complaints could be bubbled up.
I guess just a follow-up comment from my side. I guess the BJCP's role is to certify judges to judge beer competitions and homebrew competitions mainly. So I guess it kind of looks bad sometimes on the BJCP when you see that this person is certified by the organization, but then their skills may no longer or may not be up to what this organization sometimes expects. So I guess that's just kind of where I'm coming from, but thank you for your answer.
I want to touch on that a little bit. There are only 2 times where the BJCP sees score sheets officially from a judge. It's the first time you took an exam or retake, and if you proctored. And I believe there's still verbiage in the guidelines for proctors to that effect. And I know I have sent notices to judges who have proctored for producing poor quality score sheets because they did not meet the expected standards. Unfortunately, most other score sheets in competitions do not pass through our hands, so we can't officially say anything, and I wish there was some way we could say, yeah, okay, we're going to slap your hand like the nun did back in grade school because you didn't do that correctly, but we don't have a lot of control over people, sadly.
Yeah, that was actually one of the subjects that was sort of directed to this ethics committee that's looking at that, is to provide some mechanism for that to be addressed. They're working on standards of conduct first, and then we'd be looking at ways of having some form of review. I think we just kind of need to decide to what end. When we've had these discussions in the past, people have sort of jumped over the discussions of issues with individual sheets into how does the punishment and public humiliation phase happen, and I think that part is kind of counterproductive until we actually provide positive ways forward. So that's why we want to try to address it as a comprehensive problem. But it's something we've heard before, and it's something that I think has been tasked into the ethics committee to investigate.
The one last thing, humiliation does work. In one of our events, some of you have been there. We used to post very large score sheets from some other unnamed location with unnamed judges, but they were mostly blank with no useful words on them. And the judge director, before we started judging, would always say, do not produce score sheets like these.
What I wanted to answer is the first part you were talking about advice for new exam administrators. I've done this a lot, and one of the things, it's maybe not necessarily specified in the publication, always bring more beer than you need. If you use small format, like 12-ounce bottles or even smaller, you're gonna spend a lot of time opening bottles. If you have a helper, that helps out quite a bit for the pouring because you got 15 minutes in between beers. Big format like PEP bottles, growlers, or kegs work really well. But there's gonna be that day the keg doesn't pour, something happens, so just be prepared, have an extra beer as a hip pocket so the exam goes on, you're not having these breaks or anything like that. So that would be my advice for the first time, because whatever can go wrong will go wrong when you're trying to pour beer and get it out on time.
So you just asked a question about as a competition organizer, defending crappy score sheets. What I really want to ask is the opposite side of that coin is sometimes there are competitions that really should not be BJCP sanctioned. They're set up for failure and don't have enough judges, and is there any mechanism for the BJCP to try to essentially pull a sanction from the competition? My probably most uncomfortable moment of telling people I was a BJCP judge was when I got into defending a competition that had 100 beers and 4 judges show up or something like that. It was an impossible situation for the judges, and the competition is not representative of what it is.
Yeah, it's rough when the BJCP doesn't run the competition to do a whole lot about that, because the only remedy we have is to either deny point awards to people in specific roles, or to not sanction a competition in the future. So I think part of the ethics committee is to sort of look at, are there any sort of intermediate phases that could go on there? That's the sort of the reactive approach to the problem. But we're trying something a little bit different, and I probably should have mentioned this earlier since it's something we've been talking about for a while. Since the BJCP has grown so much in the last, well, it's been growing for a long time, but the rate of growth is pretty solid now. Since we've gotten bigger than we were last time we were here, the sort of the span of control for a regional representative over, like, it's the same geographic area, but there's many more people in the region. So the board's approved a plan to add assistant regional representatives that we can then have sort of spread out more within the regions, so that perhaps there's more of a local touch point for people with BJCP needs. And I think that if we have somebody like that, if a competition is really in the ditch like that, there's a better chance that they might be able to reach out to somebody in the area that could sort of help them pull it out. Because there's not a whole lot you can do after the competition happened. Sort of the better approach is to help them not crash and burn, rather than worry about how you clean up the mess afterwards. So the ethics committee is kind of looking at what else can we do after the fact, and we're adding sort of this additional layer of staff to help look into the local level. We haven't fully implemented that yet. Actually, we've only partially implemented it. So I just announced that I appointed, or the board approved the appointment of one assistant regional representative so far. It happens to be somebody that will be helping me, Andy Hale. So we're gonna initially have up to 3 assistants each, and try to sprinkle them around the region. So that's something that we're going to be working on over the next couple of months to identify people and spin them up. So between the two of those, I think we can kind of get at the problem. But you can't force judges to sort of show up to a competition. You have to run a good competition and attract them.
I think that, you're correct. You can't do anything afterwards, but you can recognize that certain competitions might have continuing problems. And part of the competition advertises the BJCP competition, and you're going to get BJCP score sheets, and that's how they get people to send in their beer and their $5 or $6. So by saying, unless you show us you're able to do it this year and you have a plan in place, we're not going to allow you to call it a BJCP competition. Seems like an appropriate step.
So we have over 600 competitions a year that get registered. The amount of work to sort of pre-screen each one for whether or not they could do those kind of things, I really don't know how we would do that.
I think if you made a mechanism for some noisy wheels for competitions that were problems, then they would become recognizable. And maybe that's what the assistant to the region does, right? If we have one in our region, if I tell Andy and Andy says, next year I'll look at it more carefully, that's pretty much all we can do.
Yeah, I think we'd all be better off if we could prevent these things at the start. And I don't know how we do that without somebody raising it to our attention.
Thank you.
Sure thing.
How you doing? Thanks for having the meeting. It's great. I just have a comment and a request. My comment is the limitation of the validity of the online exam to qualify to take the tasting exam in 1 year seems a bit arbitrary. And I get a lot of people in my area that wait to the very last minute to qualify and then can't take the exam because they're worried about running out of time if they don't pass on their tasting exam. So the comment is, could we look at extending that period of time? And even if we apply a activity requirement to maintain the validity of the passing of the online exam beyond a year, it may be worthwhile. No response is necessary, it's just a suggestion.
We'll write it down and we'll discuss it. I don't want to dismiss it out of hand, but I think, in general, human nature is if you give somebody a year to do something, they'll wait till a year minus 1 day. If you give somebody 2 years, they'll wait till 2 years minus 1 day.
Yeah. My comment is really born on the fact that people are worried about the expiration of that validity, and so they're waiting until the last minute before a deadline an exam administrator sets for passing the exam. So, I mean, it's
a fair question, and I think it's something that I'm sure the exam directors would discuss unless they've already discussed this.
Let me say that we generally, if somebody asks, would waive that requirement, not in advance, a 1 year out, but we'd say, okay, yeah.
If they need another month, right?
Yeah. Conversely, experience would show that those that wait a year or 2 years after taking the online to take the tasting may have just wasted their time taking the tasting.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. I'm just talking about manifestation of the my request is this: as a person who organizes a CEP course to prep for the tasting exams, basically I don't get any feedback. Right? I teach a class, I administer an exam, and I don't have a learning feedback to understand the things that I'm strong at teaching and the things I'm not strong at teaching. And as a grader, I see the strengths and weaknesses of the exams that I'm grading. And if we could provide feedback to the folks that are administering CEP exam prep to help them improve on an anonymized basis to protect the privacy of the examinees, I think it would be really useful as a learning tool.
Yeah, I think there are people here that would look at that, at least to discuss the idea. I don't know how hard it would be to implement, but that's certainly, this is the kind of thing that we would take and discuss and decide what to do. But I wrote it down and
thank you.
Cool.
administer exams should know that the continuing education program has what they call an exam average bonus. So if your people exceed a 70, you actually get an extra continuing ed point for having taught those people well. So what I've done in the past is I would email Randy, or in the future it'll be Bruce, and just find out what was the average of my class. It's probably not the kind of detail and feedback you're thinking of that would help you fix or improve your class, but it's get what you're entitled to. No, it's a thing.
My point is this: if I'm not teaching people to do enough on, say, feedback on their peer evaluations or whatever evaluations they're doing, that feedback would be good. So I emphasize that more in the class I'm teaching to help people prepare for the exam. A composite score average for all examinees doesn't really tell me anything. But even if I got an average on the 5 components, what the average and range was of the examinees, it would be really helpful for feedback from me to say, I've got to focus my effort to improve an area that I'm not really helping the examinees or potential examinees train for.
Yeah, we were just chatting here a little bit about this, and I've heard a lot of different ways that we might take a run at this. So this is the kind of thing that we probably take offline among the staff and talk about. But I got it written down.
Sounds like a redacted RTP. That's a redacted.
Well, it's associating how you know that there's an exam prep class with a specific exam set.
They'd have to request.
Yeah, they'd have to request it somehow.
The staff is eager to discuss this. Yes. We got it.
So my question touches on 2 topics we discussed here today, and one was voting, and the second one was international growth. I'm from the Northeast region, and I noticed that on our ballots we had international grouped in with them. So as the BJCP grows internationally, is there any topic about parsing that off from the Northeast region to give them their own voice? And with the turnout of the vote being as minimal as it was, if they have more of a say in the vote going forward than, say, the people who live in the Northeast, those two could just contradict each other on the direction of the people who live in those regions.
Yes. When we revised the bylaws a couple of years ago, we actually put in there a trigger to do a review when the largest region is twice as big as the smallest region. So basically, we've been thinking about an international region since 2010 and looking at it, but the numbers never really made sense. I think we're kind of at the point where the numbers do make sense. So what we were planning on doing initially when we implemented this assistant regional director construct is that we'd start out initially by getting certain countries to have their own sort of leader position as an assistant to get some infrastructure in place there in preparation for breaking off into a separate region. We certainly have considered that sufficiently to know that's something we're allowed to do under the bylaws now, and we believe the pieces are in place there. So I would expect it to be something that would happen within the next year or two, because I think we're just about there.
Not to that.
Sorry, we keep coming back to the new exam administrator question after the fact, but I would recommend if it's your first time doing this, that you get a buddy that has done this before. Talk to Sandy or find somebody. Like in San Diego, we have a checklist.
I'm his rep.
Oh, okay. So she'll straighten you out. But yeah, we have like an exam for dummies checklist. It's like a timeline: 6 months out, 4 months out, 3 months out. You know, and I'd like to share that a little bit wider once we clean it up and stuff. But I think it would be helpful to have. But don't fear; she'll keep you straight.
Okay, we'd kind of like to wrap in a second here, but something we probably should have brought up earlier. Bruce has been working on the cider exam and would like to give a quick status update.
So we had a meeting as a group today. We've had our third trial here. How many people participated in the trial? Awesome, great, thank you very much. It'll be evaluated, it'll be graded, it'll go through the normal process just as the previous 2 cider trials have. We have an initial pool, so let's just back up a second, I guess. Right now the cider program is going to mimic a lot of what the need one is structurally, where it'll either be a cider judge or a cider endorsement. We've kind of started with the tasting trial at first because we wanted to, one, test the execution of that, giving that tasting exam, number one. And number two, we also wanted to build a grader pool. So those people who have taken the trial, should they become cider judges or receive the cider endorsement, they will go ahead and they will be called upon to grade. So right now the proposal from the cider committee is going to be that it follows the NEED exam closely with regards to passing an online exam first. And once the online exam has been passed, then they will proceed to the opportunity to be able to take a cider trial exam. Work with the the exam directorate to schedule cider exams or transition existing exams on the schedule when the cider exam program has been certified. They're not taking any requests for that yet, so please don't start flooding requests to them for cider exams in the future. We have a sample set of questions for the online exam. The tasting is pretty solid, we believe, so we're focusing now on the remaining questions for the online. We have some good process and some good style questions. We're working on the apple varietals and the pear varietals at this particular point in time, which has been a little tricky because cider apples and pears, they depends what time of the season you get them, what different varieties, what's available in the region, all that kind of good stuff. How do we put that together in something meaningful and accurate? So we've been working through that. We feel pretty confident that we're going to be able to get through that relatively soon. When that is completed, we will then turn that question bank over to the exam directorate for them to review and to issue a trial online exam. And the audience for that group would be the people who took the tasting to begin with. They'll review that, and then once that has been completed, then they'll make the call on whether or not we have they're ready to sanction the cider exam program. Before the program goes live, though, we have to work on a cider study guide as well, too. So we have to be able to educate people on what they're looking forward to when they sign up for this. So that is our next step. We're working on that as well. Our hope, our intent, our goal is to get this launched hopefully around the end of the year or sometime towards the beginning of next year. But a lot of things have to kind of fall in place for that to happen. So it's a learning process for us. We want to make sure we get it right. We're getting this certified with outside resources as well too. So bear with us. We appreciate the patience with it. I know people have been asking about it, and we look forward to finally bringing this across the finish line. So with that, are there any questions?
I had one more thing. Bringing up the cider exam, cider endorsement, the endorsement, got me thinking about also the Cicerone program. For those of us that are BJCP judges, but are also industry professionals that choose to go through that program as well. Has leadership thought about any type of endorsement or continuing education points for those of us who choose to go down that program but are still active on the homebrew side?
I believe you are Cicerone, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. So what I'm getting from this is I'm going to put together, structure the idea a little bit, put together a proposal for the board for them to review, and based upon that, you might be able to sanction some CEP points based on that, but we'll have to propose it and get it worked out appropriately. While I have the microphone here real quick, we were talking about cider, just out of curiosity, how many people, just show of hands, we
did kind of come up in the final round here a little bit. How many people just kind of feel a little, they'd like to judge ciders, but they don't quite feel like they have the education ready to go ahead and start doing it. That's what I thought. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, I think we want to be respectful of the time to go and deal with the banquet. We've got some really good questions. I heard a lot less rage than in the past, so I'll take that as 2 thumbs up. So very much appreciate you all coming out and chatting with us. Believe it or not, we really do take a lot from these meetings, and it does help us guide the things we work on over the year. So thanks all for coming out, and hope you enjoyed the conference.